Retire in Europe on $900 a month. Real apartments, real towns, not a scam, not a tourist trap, not one of those Instagram perfect illusions where the sun always shines and the cats wear tiny hats. We're diving into 10 towns in Bulgaria where cheap meets charm, but there's always a catch. Beachfront apartments, cheaper than fast food meals. Hilltop views, cheaper than your car payment. Mountain town apartments, cheaper than a weekend getaway. Nothing is perfect. Expect quirks. Some streets are quiet, some winters long, some neighbors will give you side-eye for buying milk. But that's part of the charm. You'll either pack your bags or wonder why it's so cheap. Let's get started. Plovdiv. You wake up in Plovdiv and the first thing you notice is the cobblestones. They don't just mark the streets, they make you feel like you're trespassing. And the view? Your apartment could overlook Roman ruins. Cheaper than a tiny studio back home. Seriously. You could sip your morning coffee while staring at a 2,000-year-old amphitheater and pay less than what you drop on a latte habit. Plovdiv is Bulgaria's second largest city, about 340,000 people, and somehow it balances history with modern life. Old Town streets twist like someone designed them to confuse tourists, and maybe invading armies too. Street art pops up in alleys, cafes spill over with students, and yes, stray cats judge your life choices. Real towns, real people. Real weird reasons you might never leave. Homes go for roughly $30,000. Rent? Around $250 a month. Cost of living is roughly 40% lower than big US cities. Crime? Low. Public transport? Solid. Internet? Works. Until it doesn't. One local on Reddit warned, internet fine until it isn't. Buffering becomes a meditation practice. Winter's a bit of a mood. Gray skies, chilly mornings, damp that sneaks into your shoes. Still, the cold has charm. Frost on frescoed balconies, crisp air, street-side coffee tasting like liquid gold. Traffic lights here are a whole other story. They don't follow rules, they don't care. They just dare you to cross. You either get really patient or start betting on when you'll make it across. The locals? They've got this down. Eye contact, hand waves, subtle nudges, like they're silently conducting a very confusing orchestra. But if you can handle that, then you're in for a treat. Step outside and it hits you. The smell of fresh bread, a fountain murmuring somewhere in a courtyard, cats weaving around your feet like they own the place. Cafes hum, corners hide stories, and somehow living here costs less than back home, but feels richer in every way. If Plovdiv feels like stepping into a history book, wait until we hit the next place up in the mountains. Cozy apartments, pine-scented air, and a sense that your old city might have never existed. Veliko Tarnovo. Imagine waking up on a hilltop with a view of a medieval fortress. Sounds expensive, right? Nope. In Veliko Tarnovo, your apartment could cost less than your car payment back home. Seriously. You could sip coffee while staring at Tsarevet's fortress, thinking about kings, rebellions, and the occasional confused tourist, and still have money left for breakfast. Veliko Tarnovo is small by city standards, about 70,000 people, but it packs personality. Cobblestone streets twist and turn like they're daring you to get lost. Houses lean a little because centuries. Street-side honey sellers wave as you pass, and church bells chime like the city's personal soundtrack. Real towns, real people, real weird reasons you might never leave. Homes go for around $20,000. Rent? About $200 a month. Cost of living is roughly 50% below the EU average. Crime? Low. Internet? Surprisingly okay, though sometimes slower than a snail on vacation. Winters can be foggy and gray. One expat described it perfectly. Stepping back in time. Literally. You'll get used to the mist curling around fortress walls, and if you squint, you might half expect a knight to walk by. Now, the streets have rules. Kind of. The dogs run the sidewalks here. Not metaphorically, they really do. You'll be dodging paws, tails, and the occasional sniffing duel while locals stroll like nothing's happening. It's like living in a real-life game of Frogger, except the stakes are you dignity, not points. Apart from that, sunrise over the fortress, the fog lifting slowly, church bells echoing across the hills. What an amazing place. Honey sellers set out jars of amber sweetness that smell like summer in a jar. The smell of fresh bread drifts from corner bakeries, and a stray cat brushes past your leg like it owns your apartment too. You realize living here is cheaper than back home, and every moment feels richer. But if you think Veliko Tarnovo feels like a postcard, wait till we hit the ski resort town next. Cozy cabins, mountain air, and a weird mix of tourists, expats, and locals who all seem slightly suspicious of your skiing skills. Bansko. Morning in Bansko hits like a cold slap wrapped in pine-scented air. The Pyrenean Mountains rise around you like silent bouncers, judging your life choices while your balcony overlooks the Todorka ski slopes glinting under the sun. And your apartment? Cheaper than a one-night hotel in London. You could sip coffee while watching skiers tumble down Shiligarnica slope and still have enough left over for pastries at Café Carandila, or maybe two. Bansko is tiny, just 8,000 residents, but in winter it transforms into a circus. Tourists flood Velyanov Street, ski poles clacking like rogue percussion, instructors shouting commands like generals from the Bansko ski school, and lift lines at Bansko Gondola stretching longer than the Balkan Mountains themselves. Homes go for around $25,000, rent clocks in at $220 a month, and crime? Almost non-existent. The local economy pulses with ski tourism, off-season. The town turns full Narnia. Silent streets, shuttered shops on Tsar Simeon Street, and a snowfall that makes even the stray dogs look cinematic. Ski lifts deserve a warning label. They run on their own mysterious schedule. Sometimes you get stuck mid-ride, dangling like an involuntary sightseeing drone. Sometimes you blink and miss your lift entirely. Survive that without throwing your poles like a spear, and the mornings feel like a reward. The town's air hits first, a sharp, pine-scented slap from the Bansko forest. Snow crunches underfoot like applause for surviving lift roulette. Ski poles clink in chaotic rhythm across the slopes. Cafes exhale smells of warm banitsa, chocolate so rich it could bribe your soul, and coffee steaming as if apologizing for the frost. Even the stray dogs patrolling Shiligarnica Alley carry themselves like seasonal royalty. Sunlight catches the snow on Viren Peak, scattering glints across the slopes. Forests rise like green walls, mountains fade into clouds, and suddenly the town's chaos feels magical. Every breath is sharper, colder, alive. Living here for $220 a month? Absurdly cheap and somehow indulgent. History leaks through the town, too. The old Bansko quarter boasts cobbled streets and 18th century houses with painted eaves. The Holy Trinity Church, built in 1835, stands as a reminder that this town survived Ottoman rule and the passage of time while keeping its charm intact. Local legends tell of ski instructors who once smuggled goods over the mountains during winter. Apparently, multitasking hasn't changed much. But off-season, Bansko goes completely silent. Chairlifts freeze, Velyanov Street shops shutter, and the only movement comes from a lone crow or a distant snowplow. You might find yourself chatting with pine trees who, unsurprisingly, offer zero conversation in return. Still, it's comforting in a this is your life now kind of way. Varna. The first thing that hits you in Varna isn't the view, it's the smell. Salt, sunscreen, and the faintest hint of fried calamari drifting from the promenade. Beachfront life here is absurdly cheap. You could snag an apartment by the sea for less than most inland rentals in other countries. Morning espresso while the waves crash? Check enough left over to bribe the seagulls? Double check. Varna is Bulgaria's fourth largest city, about 350,000 people, and somehow mixes history with modern seaside energy. Roman baths sit next to shopping malls, promenade cafes spill over onto the sidewalks, and locals seem to enjoy judging tourists quietly with a wink. Real towns, real people, real weird reasons to stay, or at least keep coming back. Homes go for roughly $40,000. Rent, around $300 a month. Crime is low. Tourism dominates the summer months, so the city feels alive, buzzing, colorful. But off-season, Varna slows to a sleepy hum. Beaches empty, shops shutter, and you suddenly realize the seagulls have been your only consistent neighbors. Summer comes with perks and quirks. Beachview has a hidden surcharge, seagull taxes. They'll swoop for your ice cream, your sandwich, or your dignity. Sidewalk vendors add to the chaos. You'll dodge hawkers selling souvenirs, sun hats, trinkets, and enough fake knockoffs to make a flea market blush. If you survive that gauntlet, the sensory rewards hit immediately. Pine-scented mornings? Check, just kidding. Salt air here replaces pine. The sea sparkles like a million tiny mirrors catching sunlight, and the sand is golden enough to make your shoes jealous. Cafes spill coffee aroma into the street, pastries warm enough to forgive the heat, and kids shriek at the waves like tiny emotional hurricanes. Dogs chase frisbees, cats patrol alleys with judicial precision, and the horizon melts into pink-orange at sunset so perfectly it could be a screensaver. Traffic is its own brand of chaos. Roundabouts make you question reality. Scooters appear from nowhere. Taxis act as if traffic laws are abstract suggestions. Locals navigate with a calm that feels suspiciously like telepathy. You survive all this, and the city suddenly feels alive, quirky, charming, and manageable, like someone else edited out the worst parts. Varna proves beachfront living doesn't need a king's ransom. $300 a month for rent? You'll be staring at the sea, wondering why you ever paid more elsewhere. And if you visit off-season, the empty streets and quiet waves feel like the city is letting you in on a secret. Life here is better when you notice the details. The seagulls, the smell of bread from the bakery, the distant chime of the cathedral bells mixing with waves. But wait, if you think Varna is lively, wait till the medieval coastal town we visit next. Narrow streets, cliffside views, and history stacked so thick it could trip you if you're not careful. Sozopol. The morning bells from the Church of St. George argue with gulls over who's louder, and somehow you're caught in the middle, on a tiny balcony just steps from the sea, paying less than you would for a weekend in your old city. Historic houses, sea breeze, and fresh seafood practically at your doorstep, and somehow it still feels too cheap to be real. Sozopol is a small coastal town with about 8,000 residents, but its history packs a punch. Founded over 3,000 years ago by the Greek, it's one of Bulgaria's oldest settlements. Cobblestone streets twist between wooden balconies, centuries-old churches peek around corners, and the harbor hums with fishermen unloading their cats. Summer transforms the town into an art and culture hotspot, with festivals, galleries, and craft fairs popping up like magic. Real town, real people, real weird reasons to never leave or get lost delightfully. Homes go for around $35,000. Rent, about $220 a month. Crime is low. Seafood is everywhere. Fresh fish, calamari, mussels, all cheaper than a restaurant meal back home. Summer isn't perfect though. Tourists swarm the streets, block the best photo spots, and make you reconsider whether Instagram fame is worth the dodge and weave strategy. Sidewalk chaos aside, mornings reward the patient. Narrow lanes gleam in early sunlight. Wooden balconies lean over alleys, throwing shadows that could double as art installations. Salty air drifts in, carrying the faint aroma of grilled fish and roasted coffee beans. Gulls bicker overhead while cats patrol like small naval officers inspecting their territory. The harbor creaks and hums, as if the town itself is reminding you it's alive. Off-season, the town slows. Streets empty, shops close, and the usual hum of festivals disappears. The quiet is almost eerie, but it has charm. You hear the waves, the occasional church bell, and your own footsteps echoing against ancient stone. Chaos is gone, but the history remains palpable, whispering stories of traders, artists, and fishermen who came before. If this town has you curious, hit subscribe and join us for more hidden gems like this one. Koprivshtitsa. Next up, we have Koprivshtitsa, a village that feels like someone pressed pause on history and forgot to hit play. Traditional timber houses line the cobblestone streets, painted in pastel yellows, blues, and pinks, looking like a living postcard. You could grab one of these historic homes for less than your monthly coffee subscription back home. Seriously, $15,000 for a house that whispers stories from the 19th century while you sip your morning tea. Rent? Around $150 a month. Tiny cost of living, minimal crime, total charm. Only about 2,000 residents call Koprivshtitsa home, so don't expect bustling nightlife or late-night convenience stores. Remote? Yes. Quiet? Yes. Peaceful, if you survive the silence. The village has preserved its Ottoman and Bulgarian revival architecture so perfectly that wandering the streets feels like stepping into a history book, one you can live in. Museums, artisans, and cobblestone squares dominate the scenery, and every corner hints at stories from Bulgaria's revolutionary past. Real towns, real people, real weird reasons to move, or just visit and feel small in the best way. Now, about the locals. If you think you're in charge of the streets, think again. Chickens cross like they own the roads. Goats may wander by your doorstep, and cats patrol alleys like tiny furry sheriffs. If you survive that, the real charm hits you. Timber houses smell faintly of old wood and polish. Cobblestones rattle under passing carts and footsteps. You hear the hammer of craftsmen shaping wood, the creak of shutters swinging in the wind, and the occasional bell from the church tower. Every step has texture, smell, and sound. Tourism is seasonal, mostly in summer when festivals celebrate local crafts, music, and Bulgarian revival history. The rest of the year, the village slows to a sleepy rhythm. Streets are empty, shops close, and you start appreciating the quiet, the crisp mountain air, and the way shadows fall across centuries-old facades. You realize cheap living here isn't just about money, it's about stepping back in time without losing comfort entirely. Nesebar. Tiny streets twist like they're trying to confuse invaders from centuries ago. Houses with red-tiled roofs and pastel walls cling to the old peninsula, UNESCO approved and surprisingly cheap. Cheaper than your monthly Netflix binge. Seriously, $40,000 gets you a home where every window frames the waves hitting ancient stone walls. Rent? Around $250 a month. Crime is low, seafood is abundant, and the cost of living will make your wallet breathe easier. About 13,000 residents call this peninsula home, though in summer it feels like the world decided to vacation there at the same time. Nesebar has history oozing from every corner. Churches, some dating back to the 5th century, tower over cobblestones. Byzantine ruins peek from corners, and narrow lanes guide you past wooden houses that have survived centuries of storms, pirates, and tourists snapping photos. Real towns, real people, real weird reasons you'll want to live here, or at least pretend you do for a weekend. Now, the reality check. Summer is chaos. Narrow streets fill with visitors, music, and camera clicks. Peace and quiet come at a premium. You pay for views, and tranquility is strictly seasonal. Yet even in the crush, the charm isn't lost. Cafes spill into the alleys, fresh seafood markets hum with energy, and local artisans sell everything from carved icons to tiny ceramic boats. Street cats here are basically your roommates, judging every move. Try sitting outside with a pastry and they'll stare like you just tried to steal from the national treasure. If you survive that scrutiny, you're rewarded with mornings that feel like postcards. Sun hits the terracotta rooftops, waves lap against ancient walls, and the air carries a mix of salt, grilled fish, and the faint scent of history itself. The sound of church bells mixes with gulls squabbling overhead, and somehow it all feels alive, timeless, and ridiculously photogenic. Off-season, Nesebar shifts. Tourists vanish, streets empty, and the churches and ruins regain their solemnity. You can wander freely, explore museums, and hear your footsteps echo on the cobblestones without dodging selfie sticks. Cafes still open, but the pace slows. It's easier to appreciate the layers of history pressed into every stone, every balcony, every sun-bleached wall. Living here is a mix of luxury and patience. Affordable homes with UNESCO pedigree, endless seafood, and views that make you forget your old city exist. Paired with summer crowds, judgmental cats, and seasonal quiet. But you adapt, or you enjoy watching the chaos from a safe balcony. If Nesebar is picturesque, wait till we cross to the Danube and meet a town where rivers meet history. Bridges hum with stories, and the sunsets hit golden like liquid metal. Ruse, nicknamed Little Vienna, this city clearly got all the European charm points without the European prices. Imagine strolling past ornate pastel-colored buildings that look like they were plucked straight from a postcard. Except here, a European-style apartment costs less than your cramped studio back home. Homes go for around $20,000. Rent? About $200 a month. The cost of living is roughly 50% lower than the EU average. Crime is low. The Danube glints at the city's edge. And yes, you can have a riverside promenade view without selling a kidney. Ruse has roughly 150,000 residents, making it big enough to feel alive, but small enough that you'll recognize a face in the street market. History seeps into every corner. Neo-Baroque and Neo-Rococo buildings line the main avenues, telling stories of a city that once rivaled Vienna in elegance. The city's central square is perfect for aimless wandering, with fountains, statues, and that faint hum of past centuries. Real towns, real people, real weird reasons you might suddenly want to pack your bags. Reality check. Winters are gray, foggy, and persistent. Danube views? Absolutely free. Fog? Optional. Tram schedules are basically suggestions. If you want to show up on time, bring patience or just walk. Local coffee shops make up for it though. Sip a cup while you watch the mist roll over the river, and you might forget that it's December and your heating bill back home is terrifying. The comedic chaos doesn't stop at public transport. Street vendors and honking cars blend into a symphony of urban life. And the trams, they rattle, groan, and appear when convenient. Think of it as a game. Will the tram arrive before your patience runs out? Locals treat it like theater. You'll either laugh or develop Stockholm Syndrome for the timetable. Life in Ruse is a delight once you're tuned in. The promenade along the Danube hums with walkers, cyclists, and the occasional guitar strumming from a street musician. Faint trumpet notes drift from cafes. The smell of fresh bread mixes with river air. Sunlight bounces off ornate facades, making every corner feel cinematic. At night, the city softens. Lights shimmer on cobblestones. The river murmurs secrets, and the fog creeps in like it owns the place. You realize cheap living here isn't just about money, it's about atmosphere. The city hums with culture. The Ruse Regional Historical Museum showcases artifacts from the city's Ottoman, Roman, and Bulgarian revival past, while Dunavska Gallery hosts rotating exhibitions of contemporary Bulgarian artists. The Opera House occasionally spills arias onto the street, reminding you that culture here isn't just behind closed doors. On weekends, the Rus Central Market comes alive with vendors selling handmade pottery, embroidered linens, seasonal honey from nearby villages, and fresh Danube fish. Summer tourists flood the pedestrian Freedom Square, snapping photos of the clock tower and the ornate facade of the municipal hall. Yet the city never loses its core character. Quiet streets like Angel Kanchev Street and shaded squares such as Bottenberg Square remain peaceful, a reminder that life here moves at a human pace, not at the speed of your notifications. If Ruse feels like European charm on a budget, wait till we hit the next stop. An artsy, small town where every alleyway doubles as an art gallery, coffee smells like heaven, and local musicians make the streets sing. Tryavna. This is the town where craftsmanship isn't just a hobby, it's basically a lifestyle, and your neighbors will judge your woodworking skills or lack thereof. Here, a timbered craftsman's house costs less than your monthly gym fees. Homes go for about $18,000, rent hovers around $160 a month, the cost of living is tiny, and crime is low. Artisan culture is alive and well, which means if you like wood carvings, hand-painted ceramics, and furniture that looks like it belongs in a palace, you're in luck. Tryavna has roughly 10,000 residents, so it's small enough that everyone knows your business, and probably your cat's name, but big enough to sustain a community of artisans who keep centuries-old traditions alive. The town's timbered houses and red-tiled roofs seem to have popped straight out of a storybook. Main squares like Rotunda Square host festivals celebrating wood carving and icon painting. The Tryavna Iconographic School Museum shows off centuries of Bulgarian art, where painted saints stare at you like they're silently evaluating your life choices. But reality check first, winters here are quiet, sometimes painfully so. Streets empty, riversides freeze, and the isolation is real. If you're used to city lights and weekend plans, this might feel like living inside a snow globe. Everyone knows your comings and goings, and if your cat sneaks into the baker's shop again, the whole town will know by morning. But this is also the charm. You can walk for hours without bumping into a car, and silence feels like a luxury rather than a punishment. And try walking the cobblestone streets in flip-flops. You'll develop muscles you didn't know existed. Swear at paving stones, and maybe earn a glare from a local who's perfected the art of silent judgment. Even the tram of delivery carts seems to have its own rules, though they rarely make sense to newcomers. You quickly learn that patience and a strong sense of humor are mandatory survival tools. Expect you survive that. You'll experience timber houses that give off a faint scent of pine and varnish, blended with the warm, buttery aroma from local bakeries that line Georgia Badjiev Street. The river meanders alongside the town, its banks perfect for quiet walks or watching artisans hammer, carve, and paint. Festivals bring music, laughter, and a kaleidoscope of colors that makes the town feel alive in a way that even modern cities can't replicate. Sunlight hits the red roofs and timber beams in a way that makes every photograph look like it was professionally staged. Living here is affordable, charming, and slightly peculiar. Small-town gossip, artisan culture, winter isolation, and cobblestone workouts all come free of charge. It's a place where history, craft, and daily life coexist in harmony, and your money stretches further than in nearly any other part of Bulgaria. If Tryavna feels like a quaint haven for crafts and quiet riverside mornings, wait until the last mountain village, where pine forests, hidden chalets, and untouched slopes make you question if your old life even existed. Gabrovo. Apartments in this town cost less than a weekend in Sofia. You could snag a full city flat for around $20,000 or rent one for $180 a month. The cost of living is low, crime barely exists, and the industrial jobs keep the town humming. But the real occupation seems to be laughing at yourself or at the city's never-ending practical jokes. Gabrovo has about 60,000 residents, enough to keep life interesting, but not so many that you can't find a quiet street. History sneaks into daily life. The Itar Architectural Ethnographic Complex, a living museum of Bulgarian crafts, sits at the edge of town. Its watermills clatter, and artisans carve and hammer, as if centuries of tradition depend on it. The House of Humor and Satire lives up to its name, poking fun at politics, society, and anyone who takes life too seriously. Basically the perfect introduction for anyone thinking of moving here. Mornings often arrive under a mist that curls along the Yantra River and creeps around red-tiled rooftops. Clouds spill down from the Balkan Mountains, sometimes hiding their peaks like they're playing hide and seek. The bakery ovens puff out warm smells of bread and pastry that sneak into narrow streets, competing with the faint tang of pine from the nearby slopes. Cobblestones underfoot are a test of balance, patience, and possibly footwear choices, and locals stroll by like they own every inch, though they'll probably give you a smirk if you stumble. Traffic has its own sense of humor. Street signs feel optional, drivers invent their own rules, and cyclists treat every uneven patch as a chance to show off skills you didn't know you needed. Somehow, it works. Somehow, it becomes part of the rhythm of life. You'll learn quickly that patience, alertness, and a sense of humor are essential survival tools here. Evenings settle over Gabrovo like a soft punchline. The distant hum of machinery from the textile factory on Georgy Dimitrov Street fades into the background. Along the Yantra River Promenade, you can hear a craftsman at the Atar complex hammering out the final details on a wooden clock, the rhythmic taps echoing through the narrow cobblestone lanes. Neighbors lean over the low walls of Hadji Nikolaev Street, trading gossip about the mayor's latest practical joke or the cafe that ran out of Banitsa again. The air carries a mix of scents. Pine from the Balkan foothills, smoke curling from bakery ovens on Kanya's Boris Street, and occasionally, the sharp tang of a local's sarcastic quip that makes you wonder if they were talking about you. Gabrovo's charm creeps in unnoticed. In the cracked tiles of the old municipal building, the crooked lamppost outside the House of Humor and Satire, and the mist rolling over red rooftops of St. Nicholas Church, drifting slowly like it's performing a private magic show. Cheap, charming, and subtle in its quirks, Gabrovo proves that living well doesn't mean spending much. Between mountain views, centuries-old craftwork, and the gentle sarcasm embedded in every interaction, life here feels unexpectedly luxurious. From Plovdiv's Roman ruins to Gabrovo's misty mountain streets, Bulgaria turns $900 a month into a VIP pass for cobblestones, seaside breezes, and pine-scented mornings, all somehow cheaper than your daily latte. Which town would you actually wake up in? The one where traffic lights play roulette? Or the one where chickens cross the streets like they own the place? Like this video so the algorithm thinks I'm important. Subscribe. One day you'll need a plan to escape reality without breaking the bank.